Everyone out today. We've been blessed with a beautiful day to come out and worship together. And as always, I pray what I say will be pleasing in God's sight and in accordance to what the scriptures teach. Recently, we've been looking at some character traits that Christians should emulate. Several weeks back, we looked at Joseph and Joshua and then David. 2 weeks ago, we talked about how the older person never reaches a point where we can retire from living the Christian life and serving God. We looked with Joshua and the leadership qualities that he possessed to lead the children of Israel and the qualities that Joseph had. All these are examples of good character. And with Joseph, even though he had a very bad relationship with his brothers in his youth, he was sold into slavery, falsely accused, put into prison, all these things forgotten about while he was there. All these things add up and would make most people discouraged and question their point in life, but he never let those things change his good character. And look at how many people in society use downturns to excuse or promote bad behavior. It's their excuse for not being a good person because this or that has happened to me. It didn't keep Joseph from doing what was right. So today I would like to look at our reputation. We looked several weeks at characters. Well, today I would like us to look at reputation. Our character is who we are. Our reputation is who people think we are. These can be very different, unfortunately, for good or for bad. John Wooden said, be more concerned with your character than your reputation, because your character is what you really are, while your reputation is merely what others think you are. We've discussed this before in our Bible studies, our reputation and our influence, and I would say that what John Wooden said there is partly true. Who we really are is important, but who people think we are is important as well. Our character and our influence, they go hand in hand. They're not exactly the same, but if I have a bad reputation in the community, it would be very difficult, if not impossible, to influence and have a positive influence over others for good and to influence them to want to become a Christian, a follower of Christ. It would be nearly impossible. Abe Lincoln said character is like a tree and reputation is like a shadow. The shadow is what we think of it. The tree is the real thing. That shadow, the shape that is created by the light that is shining up on it. If we have a good reputation, but we have no character, no substance, then we're nothing more than a hypocrite. But the scriptures teach us that both of these are important. Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 1 says that a good name is to be chosen rather than great riches, loving favor rather than silver and gold. Many people would say, I'll just take the money. I would rather have the money than to care what people think about me or to care what my name is, whether it's good or bad, because we're interested in wealth more than the value of a good name. But according to the scriptures, keeping our reputation is important as well. We must have a good character, clearly, because God looks at who we are on the inside just as much as who we look like on the outside. But what others think about us is important. Reputation refers to our overall, as we are judged by people in general, the estimation of what is held about us. It's valuable. Our reputation is valuable. We may not think much of it. We may not care what people think about us. But God tells us differently. He tells us our good name, that good name. If I had to pick between great riches and having a good name, then I pick that good name. It's more valuable than that gold. In reality, our reputation is one of the highest prizes and highest value that we possess. We measure our wealth. We say, I'm worth this much money. Somebody was commenting about how much Elon Musk was worth, how many billions of dollars that he was worth. And he said, well, there's only 8 billion people in this world. Why doesn't he just give us all $1 billion and he wouldn't miss it? And somebody responded, you do realize that that's not all in liquid assets that they're measuring, right? And that's when we look at what we're worth, we don't just look at how much money we have in the bank. You take all of your assets and subtract all of your debts, and then that's how you find out how much we're worth, how much money we have. Well, the scriptures tell us that reputation is worth more than all that combined. A good reputation describes someone that's been found trustworthy. We can think of people that we probably all know that if they tell us something, that's solid. It's rock solid. It's something we can take to the bank and count on because we trust what they tell us. But we can probably also think of people that we wouldn't trust them out of our sight. May not even trust them in our sight if they're the wrong kind of person because of their reputation, both good and bad. I wouldn't trust anything this person tells me, no matter what they say. A reputation cannot be purchased with all that money, nor can it be demanded. It's only earned. It's not a right. Boy, we have that extremely confused in our society today about what a right is. A reputation's not a right, but it's a gift. Based on what we do and how we interact with others, how we treat them, how we conduct ourselves in front of them. We can have lots and lots of money or a very important family name, but that won't give us a good reputation, will it? It may give us the name of the black sheep of the family, but having a good family name won't buy us a reputation. If you don't believe me, look at some of the names that we read in the newspaper, especially in the society section, the celebrities that people flock to for advice on all the subjects, even though they may only be good at acting or something like that. But do we really see them, if we start digging down into their personal lives, do we see them as good people? I would hope not, because they're not. Jesus tells us that we are to have influence over others. Whether we realize it or not, we will be influencing others. He likened it to being salt and light in Matthew chapter 5 and beginning in verse 13. Both of these have powerful influences. We notice them when they are present, and we notice them both when they are absent. In Matthew chapter 5 and beginning in verse 13, you are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its flavor, how shall it be seasoned? It is then good for nothing, but to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand. And it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. In terms of salt, it can enhance the flavor of food, and it also preserves it. We had some soft pretzels on Friday night. I thought they were delicious. Jenny said, "Oh, they're too salty." You notice that flavor there. We probably like salty food, but what do? We find ourselves thirsty after it because of the influence that it has. It continues to influence long after we've swallowed it. And light can dispel darkness in a room. There's no if, ands, or but if the light is on. We know it. We can tell it, or we can tell when it's not on. Walk through your house in the middle of the night trying to be quiet and not disturb anyone else by turning a light on, and find how many things you can run across that you didn't know were there that you would have never found in the daylight with a light on. Well, I didn't realize that ottoman stuck out so far, or that chair was there, or something was my shoes were left in the floor for me to fall over. All those things are easily avoided when we have light. Or the opposite, if we're walking through the room with the light on and it goes off unexpectedly, maybe the power goes out, all of a sudden we're disoriented completely because of the influence that that light has over us. A good reputation is like that. It will equip the child of God with influence and opportunity that we don't have when it's turned off. Oh, we're going to influence. It's never off to the point that it goes away, but it's off to the point that it doesn't work for good. How much good we can do for the cause of Christ versus how much damage we're doing for the cause of Christ. How can we possibly help lead someone to Christ if we ourselves are not setting the proper example in front of them as to what a Christian is? We are all. Now, we're going to look at a few specific ones here, but this evening we're going to look at more in what we do and how we do influence others. But we're all to be good examples. The scriptures talk about some who are specifically examples, but we're going to find that we fit in all of these. Specifically mentioned here in 1 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 7 are the elders. And what does he tell them here? Why worry about those on the outside if our reputation doesn't matter? It's easy for me to influence and have a good reputation in here. I mean, our time is limited together. We don't see each other a lot outside of the worship service during the week. Maybe run into each other at a Christmas tree lighting event or something like that. But we don't see each other a lot during the week. It's easy for my reputation to be good in here, isn't it? But what about on the outside? 1 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 7, Paul says, moreover, and this is talking about the qualifications of an elder, moreover, he must have a good testimony among those who are outside, lest he fall into reproach in the snare of the devil. The King James says report instead of testimony. Other words are record or witness. How do those on the outside see us? How do those on the outside talk about us? A witness, if we think about that word, we'd probably think about a criminal or a court case or something along those lines where somebody comes in and testifies about what this person is like. Maybe a character witness. How do those on the outside of the church see us? It does matter how the community views us. What is our reputation in the community? What do people see or think of when they see us walking across the parking lot coming into the store? What do the workers think of us, or the waiters and waitresses at a restaurant? And I can tell you this, that Christians in general, I'm not saying this congregation, but when it comes to the hospitality industry, church people are not well liked. They are not well liked at all. Boy, what does that say about us? My cousin that was here a few weeks ago, she and her family own a store, a coffee shop, and the reputation there has been set in stone by some of the local church people because of some fits that they have pitched down there, some messes that they have made, and some of her employees have said, that right there is why I don't go to any church and I don't believe in anything like that. Now, her daughter has had to say, hey, no, wait, they're not all like that. That's the reputation that they have. It matters how the community views us. Not only does my bad reputation reflect on me, my reputation would reflect on the church as a whole. Also, the deacons are told to be examples in Acts chapter 6 and verse 3. Those who were set, they were set to serve and to help feed those who were hungry. And they were to have an honest reputation. At this moment, they're just trying to help the needy. But why would it matter what their reputation is? Does it really matter? Well, yes, it does. Acts chapter 6 and verse 3, therefore, brethren, seek out from among you 7 men of good reputation, full of the Holy Spirit and wisdom, whom we may appoint over this business. That business was feeding the widows. Does it matter what my reputation is just to feed a bunch of widows and poor people? I would say yes. Why? Because when I'm doing that and working for the church, I'm representing the church. Adam Clarke, in his commentary, wrote on this verse the phrase of honest report. That's what the King James says, that this person whose character there is authentic testimony, well known and accredited. That's how people look at this person that they were picking to serve them. Why? Because he's representing the church as a whole. Which one of us, let's ask this question, which one of us, when we go out into the world, is not representing Westview Church of Christ? Maybe if people don't know where we go, we're not, but in reality we are. Do we realize that how we're seen on the outside reflects not only on the local congregation, but on the body of Christ, the church universal as a whole? Even though we're autonomous in the nature and how we're set up, we're separate from all the other churches of Christ in the area, but do we not think that our sinful actions or a bad attitude that we show in public would reflect upon and look poorly upon the rest of the Lord's church? Just like those people that came, and thankfully I do not believe that they were Church of Christ members, but they knew that they were church people that came into my cousin's restaurant. They knew they were church people by the way that they were dressed, by the time of day that they got there. I know enough waiters and waitresses, they truly dislike Sunday morning, Sunday mid-morning and early afternoon crowd because of the way that they're known as very bad tippers and they're very rude. They treat them very rudely. Is that a mark of a Christian? Now, I have left very little tips before because of bad service. But is that how a Christian should be when service is rendered well and treated well? Is that how we should be known? This guy's a cheapskate. This guy's not generous. This guy comes in and eats and asks and wants more and more and more. Doesn't want to pay. Well, that's not a good attitude for anything, is it? That's why the church crowd, as they call it, is looked down upon. That's my reputation. Could that be why our building is so sparsely populated? Because of my reputation in the community? It's something we all need to be asking ourselves. The preacher is an example. Young Timothy here in 1 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 12. His example was his reputation. Even though he was young, others could see him and look to him at how he was living his life. 1 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 12, let no one despise your youth, but be an example to the believers in word and conduct and love, in spirit and faith, in purity. How many excuses do we use for young people, for young Christians, or just young people in general? We excuse their bad behavior because they're young. Well, what's Paul saying here? And I mean, I would say that all of us have been guilty of that. And in part, we are growing and learning and hopefully doing better as we age. But as Paul is saying here, don't give them a reason to look down on you because of your youth. We may not be elders or deacons or a preacher in this standpoint, but we may not stand up here and present a lesson, but the world still is looking to each one of us as a Christian, and our reputation matters. We're not finding one excuse found in the scriptures where we can be out in the community and have a bad reputation. And as we looked in Matthew chapter 5, Jesus tells us in Luke's account here in Luke chapter 14 that our influence, it must be maintained. We can work and we can change our reputation, but it never is something that goes away. We still have it, good or bad. In Luke's account here in Luke 14, beginning in verse 34, salt is good, but if the salt has lost its flavor, how shall it be seasoned? It is neither fit for land nor for the dunghill, but men throw it out. He who has ears, let him hear. Salt may lose its positive influence and not be good for seasoning or preserving, but it still has influencing powers, doesn't it? That's why in Matthew 5, in verse 13 there, Jesus said to throw it down on the path and let people walk on it, because it's going to kill whatever it touches. I did that in my backyard. I didn't even think about it. We had an old umbrella stand, and I wasn't thinking that water was going to get down in there and dissolve it, but I didn't have any sand, so I took some road salt that like you throw on the sidewalk, and I put it down there for weight. It worked until the thing was leaking and water filled it up from the rain, and that salt dissolved. So I had a thing that was weight that was full of water, but it was salt water. Well, I dumped it out in my grass. Guess what it did to the spot in the grass where I dumped? There's nothing that's going to grow there. It killed. I thought I should have dumped it where I was trying to kill grass. It took care of it, quickly. And that's what we're being warned of here in Luke 14 and Matthew chapter 5 about the salt. We're still having that influence. That's why the salt just couldn't be thrown out anywhere. He says it's not fit to go anywhere. It's not fit for land, and not even fit for the dunghill, because of what it's going to do. That's what he's talking about us. You can't even put it in the fertilizer pile because it's going to destroy that. You then can't spread that out on the stuff that you want to fertilize. Jesus said throw it on the sidewalk where people are walking and you don't want anything to grow there in the first place. It might get in the way of the potholes in some places. But think about that. And he is comparing that to us. The light and the salt, the influence that we have. How if it's not properly maintained, it becomes dangerous. And it will kill everything it touches. So that should tell us how valuable our influence and our reputation is. Now, sadly, others may try to destroy our reputation. This was the case in Nehemiah. If we go back and look at Nehemiah chapter 6, we're going to look at verses 10 through 13, and I'll probably butcher some of these words that are in here. But in chapter 6, we see a conspiracy being brought out against Nehemiah. So what was trying to happen, Nehemiah was trying to bring the people together to continue the work to build a wall. Sounds kind of like political stuff in our world right now. But he was trying to build this wall and have the children of Israel work on it. And they were trying to destroy him so they didn't have to do that, in a nutshell. So in Nehemiah chapter 6 and beginning in verse 10, afterward I came to the house of Shema, the son of Deliah, the son of Mehetabel, who was a secret informer, and he said, let us meet together in the house of God within the temple, and let us close the doors of the temple, for they are coming to kill you. Indeed, at night they will come to kill you. And I said, should such a man as I flee? And who is there such as I, who would go into the temple to save his life? I will not go in. Then I perceived that God had not sent him at all, but that he pronounced this prophecy against me because Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him. For this reason he was hired, that I should be afraid and act that way in sin, so that they might have cause for an evil report, that they may reproach me. They were trying to trap him and cause him to do something wrong. That way, well, we've got him, we've destroyed his reputation, and others are not going to listen to him. Well, why are God's servants, or why should we be so careful to protect our reputation? Why is that something that bothers us? Because we should realize And this is something that we see on a minute by minute basis. People don't realize this, that there are things more important than ourselves. It goes just beyond us. And as I said earlier, our reputation affects the church as a whole, the worship to God, our service to God, and it makes it ineffective. And that's the most important consideration. What is my doing? What is my reputation? What is my actions going to do to the church? This is just as true as it was at the time of Nehemiah when he was worried about doing wrong in front of others. We are a 24-hour walking, breathing, living advertisement for the Lord, for the gospel, for the local church. Have we ever really thought about that? Are we concerned about that? We should be. What kind of message are we sending out to the world? So we're going to look at 4 areas. We'll get started in them in the first one and then pick up with the rest of the 4 this evening. We're going to look at 4 areas in our lives that we need to continually work on to protect our reputation. First one's pretty easy. We work on our actions. We protect our actions. The people of God are expected to act in a certain way. The world is watching us. And boy, when we mess up, they're quick to say things like, I thought you were a Christian. I thought you were religious. We all mess up, correct? We all make mistakes. But we have to protect our actions. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 22. And this is a battle that we're having on a daily basis to avoid these activities, to avoid becoming part of this. We're to abstain from every form of evil. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 22. Abstain. Stay away from. Don't do it. King James says all appearance of evil. The New King James in the English Standard Version renders that 1 Thessalonians 5 and 22 as abstain from every form of evil. All the translations are correct. Both of them are correct. The word rendered there in the King James form literally, it figuratively means appearance, fashion, shape, or sight. Abstain from that. If something looks, appears, acts evil, then stay away from it. We're to conduct our life and conduct ourselves in a way where everything that we do is so far above board that it can't be questioned. That we're involved in something. There's no question. That's one thing that I like about my work, the finance. I don't have anything to do at all with the finances. Now, I have say in how things are spent, but none of that comes through me. There is no dollar that about 14 different people look at as it's going out, as to what it's going out to. It's so far above reproach that if it's questioned, it's going to be stopped really quickly because there's so many checks and balances, almost to a fault. It makes getting business done sometimes difficult, but I would prefer that than the other way, because there have been people who have lost their jobs over questions of their integrity because there's room for it. If we're looking at and those in my younger days, I might have said, I don't care how it looks. What's wrong with it? And I don't care what people think of it and how it looks. That's a terrible attitude. We better start caring how it looks. And we better make sure that what we're involved in looks like it's righteousness and not something that's sinful. That's why we're told in Romans chapter 12 and verse 17 that what we're to do, our actions had better be honest in the sight of all. If it looks shady or dishonest or questionable, then we better not be involved with it. Romans chapter 12 and verse 17, repay no one evil for evil. Have regard for good things in the sight of all men. The English Standard renders the last part of that verse, do what is honorable in the sight of all men. It's above board. It's above question. We do or should do exactly as I was talking about earlier. Every decision that we make, how is it going to look to those on the outside, to others, to other Christians even. If it looks dishonest or is dishonest, then I'd better not be a part of it. How we live, how we pay for everything, it needs to be open and above reproach and above question. And we've all known people, I can think of a few that we can kind of look at them and we can guess at approximately their income bracket and how much they have. And you look at it and you say, how in the world are they affording this lifestyle that they have? Something is not adding up. The math is, I mean, it's not even girl math. It's just not adding up completely. How are they affording that kind of lifestyle? Well, banks and credit unions, they'll allow us to finance some of that foolishly, but a lot of people get it dishonestly. They come by it because they've found ways to cheat and to get it in a less than lawful manner. I remember a story, and you question, it's like, how do you think you can get away with all the electronic ways of checking on things in business? Why do you think you can get away with this? And I remember a story a few years ago. This lady worked for a small doctor's office, and she was caught, and she had embezzled over $500,000 from that doctor that she worked for. She had paid for cars. She paid for her daughter's wedding. All that was stolen money. And based on some of the comments and that on this woman, I remember reading, it wasn't the first time that her integrity had been questioned because she had been involved in things like that or questioned about things like that before. Her conducting business was not above board. What would that do to the reputation of someone that hers was shot. What would it do to someone that was claiming to be a Christian? Is that the kind of actions that we want to be involved with? This person's a member of the church, and here they're out doing these things. That's not providing things honestly, is it? How would that reflect on the congregation as a whole? Well, here these people knew that this lady was doing this, and they just let her go. That's not how a Christian should be conducting business, is it? That's why we're told, and many of the points that we looked at in our Bible study this morning talked about leaving sin, getting away from it. 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 19, we're to depart from iniquity. Like we looked at Joseph a few weeks ago. When Potiphar's wife was tempting him, he didn't stick around to see how far he could take it. He fled. He departed so quickly, he left his coat behind, his garment behind. We were once sinners. When we take on the name of Christ, we leave that lifestyle. We get away from it. 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 19, nevertheless, the solid foundation of God stands, having this seal. The Lord knows those who are his, and let everyone who names the name of Christ depart from iniquity. We don't continue in it. All those who have taken on the name of Christ, who have become members of the Lord's body, should lead holy lives. We leave that sinful way of living. It's in the past. It's behind us now. But many want to take on the name of Christ and continue living exactly the way they were before. We're not leaving that behind, are we? We're not departing from it. If we do that, we're not departing from anything, are we? We're staying the same as we were before. We'll continue at this point this evening and look at some more of our actions and then look at 3 more ways that we're to live and watch and guard as Christians so that our reputation is good this evening. As we bring our thoughts to a close, I'd like to take a moment and talk about something that happened to me this week to show how fragile our life is. Wednesday night, I had a council meeting, and it was a very normal council meeting. It's kind of like church. The same people are there, the same people sitting about the same places when we come together, and you see the same faces every week. One of the guys that sat just behind me was the economic development director. and we were laughing and talking and carrying on like a normal week. And that was at between 6 and 7 on Wednesday, and at 7:14 on Thursday morning, my phone rang, and it was one of our council members. And I thought, that's not good. I've done something bad, and they're calling. Usually, my phone never rings that early in the morning. And I picked the phone up, and she said, I just wanted to let you know that Jody died last night. He was at council. He was laughing. He was talking. He'd even talked to her husband after the meeting and was saying that they hadn't gotten together more. They needed to get together some more. And they were going to do that. That was what she told me, those exact words. He said, we're going to have to do that. He didn't make it through the night. He went into his son's room, and his wife had already passed away. He went into his son's room overnight, and he said, you have got to get me to the hospital. Before they could get him through the doors to run the test on him, he had a massive heart attack there in the hospital, and he died. So at 7 o'clock Wednesday evening, he was laughing and talking and carrying on like normal. Before 7 o'clock Thursday morning, he was dead. 59 years old. He wasn't an old man. Wasn't grotesquely out of shape or anything. No reason for us to think that that man wouldn't live to see the next morning. And when I hung up with Carla, she said, you take care of yourself. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And I said, that's a fact. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. That's why if there's something that we need to fix and take care of, we better do that today. Do it now. Because we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring for any of us. He didn't. He had plans. I don't know. I don't see his calendar, but I would say his Thursday was full of meetings and things that he needed to get done. Didn't make him one of them because he didn't see Thursday morning. So if you're subject to the Lord's invitation in any way, let's take this time and think about our soul, and if there's something that we need to take care of, let's do that now while we have the opportunity as we stand and sing.